Welcome to the Landmark Theater's Q&A podcast. In this podcast, you will hear a discussion with writer-director Damien Chazelle, actor Ryan Gosling, composer Justin Hurwitz, producer Jordan Horowitz, and editor Tom Cross from the film La La Land, moderated by Variety's Jenelle Riley, recorded at the Landmark in West Los Angeles.
Congratulations on such a wonderful movie. I love doing Q&As with this movie because the audience is just smiling and so happy. It's a great feeling. I guess we should start at the beginning with Damien. I know you've been wanting to make this movie for a while, even before Whiplash. What sort of resistance did you encounter when you said, I want to make a modern-day musical with completely original music?
I think I encountered a fair bit of resistance. I think at the outset, so it was about 6 years ago now, or a little over 6 years ago that we first started kind of working on this. Justin and I knew each other since school. He was developing the music as I was writing the script and as I was developing it with Jordan. So it was kind of just this little thing, that kind of boulder we were pushing up a hill for a while, and no one in Hollywood really had any interest. And it just took a lot of kind of pounding the pavement, a lot of which Jordan did, beating on doors and trying to sort of wear people down with our passion a little bit, because it was kind of the only real toolkit we had. We didn't have comps of movies like this that had made $1 gajillion. We didn't have at that point credits that we had done that we could point to. And finally, I think what did open the doors a little bit was Justin and I went off and did Whiplash, and that kind of gave us a little cachet that we were able to, give us a little bit of money on the credit card that we could then max out on this. And then I met Ryan, and that sort of, someone like Ryan also makes a movie somewhat more conceivable to money people as well. But it was this kind of bit-by-bit process, that by the day we started shooting, it did feel like, in a way, that was the end of a whole journey, and now is the beginning of another one.
And Ryan, what attracted you to the role of Sebastian? Have you always wanted to do a musical? I mean, there's so few that ever get made nowadays.
Well, I always loved those old Hollywood style musicals, but I thought that ship had sailed, and I didn't think that was something I would get a chance to make, so I never really even thought about it. But I had a chance to meet with Damien before, not even about this, but just we just met, and he's a very his passion is infectious, and he just talked a lot about wanting to make a movie that you didn't want to watch on your iPhone and that you wanted to see in a theater with people. And I thought, that's a nice idea. Good luck with that. I just left that meeting thinking, God, I'm glad there's a guy like him out there trying to make things that he's trying to make, but that was it. And then a few months later, he sent me the script, and I read it, and I thought, wow, I think he really has a chance of doing that.
I mean, the script in itself is so strong, but then you add the music. Was the music part of the script yet, or did they have songs they could send you? Yeah,
I think actually that night you sent me the theme, and I just, it just mainlined you right into the soul of the movie, and I thought, it stuck with me over those few months, and I thought, God, that's. The music is so beautiful, and then when I read the story as well, I just thought, okay, this is this could be really special.
And Justin, you've been collaborating with Damien. You guys were college roommates. Is that true? I think. Yeah,
yeah, we met first week of freshman year of college and started a band and tried to become rock stars, and that didn't work, so we moved on. And started working on movies together. And Damien had been wanting to make movies since he was a little kid, and I started getting interested in film scoring and film music around the time I went to college. So we just found a lot of common ground and loved the same movies, and he introduced me to some of those French musicals from the 60s, and we just started talking about making things together.
And I'm curious, you guys previously also worked on Guy on Madeline on a Park Bench, which was Damien's first film, and then Whiplash. Are you writing the songs as he's writing the script?
Yeah, I started composing as soon as he started writing the treatment for the script and then the script. And the first thing we wanted to tackle was the main theme, because it's so important to the story and sort of emotionally important to what this is. So yeah, before I got to songs, we just started talking about that theme and let's find that melody. And it was a very, very long time. For any of almost all the melodies in this movie, it was a long time of me at the piano. But that one in particular, just I think weeks, just sort of at the piano trying ideas. You know, I always start at the piano before I orchestrate anything, before I mock anything up. It's just the piano because we like to hear what a melody is in its stripped down form. So I'm just working until I think I have something really great, and then I email a demo to Damien, and he says no. And then I work until I have another one that I really like, and I send it to him, and he says no, that's terrible. And then no, I'm kidding. And then I keep going until there's one. I remember like halfway through the process, there was one that he really liked, and we were both considering for a while. But it wasn't quite. We weren't quite in love with it, so we just kept going until I finally got to this one, and then as soon as he says that, oh my God, I love it, that's the one. Then there's no question. Like I recognized it so much better than anything I did into that point, and it was good. I kept going, and he just sort of pushes me to keep, to do my best work, and I appreciate that.
Tom is nodding. I'm wondering if that's what the editing process is like too.
The part about it being terrible, yes. Back to the drawing board many times.
Speaking of, I think this is actually a known fact. This film originally didn't open with the traffic number.
No. I can jump in.
Yes, please.
We can sort of talk about this too. We spent a lot of time in the edit finding the movie. It's a big, complex, ambitious picture. There was a time the film always started with the traffic number from the first draft. The traffic number, the dance in the stars, and the sort of ending epilogue were always sort of the big goalposts that were always there from really the first draft of the script. But there was a time when we took the traffic number out to sort of find the movie. There was a big overture at the top of the movie originally, really beautiful piece that was sort of that main theme and that Justin had written that's really gorgeous, that was hard to let go of. But so that was there, and then so we took the traffic, and there were just a bunch of things competing with each other, and then we realized it was actually things around it and not the actual traffic number, so we put it back in. And it was just about kind of like sitting with it and reconfiguring it, and we were lucky to have the time to actually kind of sit with it and interrogate it, much in the same way that Damien and Justin sort of had their sort of small process of constantly interrogating the work and trying to make it the best work it could be. We sort of did the same thing on a much bigger scale, but with the edit.
And Tom, Damien has said that you're also actually a very good therapist, because he would sit there and beat himself up about how terrible it was, and you were the one to talk him off the ledge.
Apparently. I always feel like it's the editor's job to kind of, in a way, I almost don't think of it as the director's therapist. It's like the film's therapist, and I mean, it was a very complicated movie, and as well planned as it was very well planned, and everyone, really prepared. When you get into the editing rooms, there's a lot of things that change. When you get these great performances, all of a sudden maybe you see that you don't need as much dialogue. Maybe less is more. Maybe just a look. When you have Ryan and Emma, and the chemistry is so amazing, you find that maybe we need to change some things that seemed perfect in the script, but now that we have this new element, we need to work on it. And so we spent about nearly a year editing the movie. And the soul of the movie was always there and was always the same, but what changed and evolved were, we had to find the right balance, I think. It was a big balance thing.
You had a lot of pre-production too, I think. You had how many months did you rehearse? Because you had to learn to play the piano too.
It was about 3 months.
You didn't learn the piano that quickly, did you? You had more time than that, I hope.
I think I had that.
It was that in
It
a
was
week.
3 months.
2 weeks.
But I didn't learn the piano. I learned these pieces for the film. You know, Damien wanted to shoot all these sequences in one shot, the piano sequences, but also the dance numbers and some of the songs. So there was just no way to sneak in a proper piano player. I had to, in order to give him what he was looking for, I had to learn. But I've also always wanted to, and it was finally a chance or a good reason to sit down and apply myself.
Who was your piano teacher? I'm fascinated by like the idea of like some old matronly woman showing up to teach Ryan Gosling piano.
Liz Keenan, and she, God, she's a patient woman. Wonderful woman and a wonderful piano player, and was very, just so supportive, and it was a lot of fun actually.
Have you kept it up?
Yeah, I mean, I still can only play these pieces, but.
That's all you need. And Damien, I understand like the actors were very involved in the rehearsal process, also sort of helping to shape the script.
Yeah, I mean, one great thing was that because of the nature of the movie, because there had to be so much piano, dance, singing, rehearsal, sort of mechanical rehearsal in some way. I had the benefit, the luxury of actually having Ryan and Emma kind of on site during this long prep process, 3+ months, which normally, especially with movies these days, you don't get. You're lucky if you get a single table read or a single kind of little conversation before shooting, and you really are kind of figuring out a lot of question marks in the shoot. But we were able to really figure out a lot of questions during rehearsal. We were also, as soon as Ryan and Emma signed on, I mean, the funny thing was I had written the roles for them. Well, I'd written the roles initially in 2010 or 2011, thinking wouldn't it be great if Ryan and Emma would, if I met them one day, they would do it. But you guys were a little younger back then, as we all were. So there was actually a little bit of aging, which really meant more kind of adding backstory, making Sebastian an old man, No, mainly adding kind of backstory and sort of calibrating, what the goals were of the characters. The structure had never changed, but really kind of being able to, as soon as they were on, start really talking about characters and start kind of working in some of their own experiences, like Ryan and Emma's own audition experiences, some of which wound up in the movie, and then just rehearsals during the, whenever they weren't dancing or singing or playing piano, we were able to just talk character and talk stuff that actually very often with a musical you wouldn't get to talk, because we wanted that stuff to be as deep and rich as it would be even if it weren't a musical.
I'm curious for all of you about balancing the tone of this movie, because on one hand it's sort of a two-hander kitchen sink drama, but then you also have this magical realism. How did you know that you would be able to pull that off?
I mean, well, I think in a way, I'll pass it off to Tom real quick, because I think that's part of why the edit took a year. But it was also, I think, something that Ryan and Emma and I talked a lot about through prep was I guess tone specifically. Just how do you have those two things exist in the movie, and what does that mean as to how it's shot and how it's performed. And I think we wound up kind of deciding that the performances would be grounded. We would treat this earnestly and kind of like it was all really happening, make it emotionally truthful, and then the shooting style, the aesthetic, all that stuff. With the rest of the crew would have this kind of constantly slightly heightened feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, one big thing that Damien talked about when we started was that he wanted this movie to be told through, because our main characters are these artists who dream big. So we wanted to tell the story with the language of dreams, and Damien is the ultimate film lover. So to him, in his head, the language of dreams translates into kind of the film grammar of old Hollywood movies. So we wanted to use a lot of irises and fades and dissolves and a lot of montages to tell the story. I mean, the other thing I think that was really important was that he knew that a lot of the romantic scenes would be like the duet, what we called the duet on the hilltop at night when Mia and Sebastian are looking for their cars, and we get into this musical number, which has this beautiful camera choreography, and there's a lot of head-to-toe composition, wide shots, so you can see all of their dancing, and you can see how Mia relates to Sebastian and vice versa in the frame. So we knew that there would be certain kind of showstopper scenes that would be shot like that, but it was important to, in order to make those have value, it was important to edit the scenes on either side or the next scene in a different way. So I guess a big thing about the editing was to find the calibration, because you didn't want to have a whole movie that would just be one unbroken take or a series of unbroken takes, because then they wouldn't mean anything. So the big challenge was to find a way to calibrate scenes where things are cut very quickly, or ways that would accentuate the romantic scenes. So the romantic scenes, Damien always said, would kind of have soft edges. That meant that other scenes in the movie had to have sharp edges, like the concert with John Legend, for example.
I heard you shot this duet, like you shot it at Magic Hour, so you really only had like an hour to get this scene in one take?
Like half an hour, because it's, the sun goes quickly.
Oh my gosh.
Shot over
really
2
annoying.
nights because of that.
Yeah.
Were you
Yeah.
feeling the pressure to perform in those moments?
Yep.
I'm going to force you to give me more.
Well, we worked for 3 months, and we knew that was coming. But, it wasn't just that. It was like when there was that, and then there was another thing after that, and then there was another thing after that. And the first thing that I shot was the scene where the characters meet, and I play the theme of the movie. And I have to do that in one shot. So there was always something to be working on. And, 3 months felt like a long time by most standards and now in terms of preparation, but it also didn't feel like enough time. And I guess what was interesting to me was that I guess you never had time to take stock in where you were, because there was always something to be working on. And it wasn't until we were there shooting that scene that I had time to stop and look back, and I realized how far we had come, and was able to enjoy it, because I felt like, thankfully we had enough time, and we also had just this relentless force of goodwill from the people that were helping us, our choreographers, and so just so much support and goodwill. And in those moments, I don't think we felt the pressure, or I didn't feel the pressure as much, because I realized that we had done the work, and we would be able to do it.
Does it help working with someone like Emma, who you've worked with twice before? I mean, do you just have a shorthand that you can sort of fall into when you're on set?
I'm glad this was our third film and not our first. There was so much to do in this movie that it just helped to have had I think when you first work with people, you can waste a lot of time just being polite and respectful of their process and all that. So when you've worked with somebody, you start working with them multiple times, you can just get to work.
And for each of you, I'm curious, what was the most difficult part about making the film? Jordan, your answer will probably be money, so let's...
Not necessarily money. Like, actually just yes, getting it made,
Yeah.
for sure is my answer.
I should have asked you, actually, when we started, when you would, go around town and try to sell this. What was the reaction from
It's
people?
interesting. It wasn't like what's that? It was everybody, like, the material was great. Like, I have to say, like, the script was great, the music was great, people really loved the material, but as Damien said, there weren't any comps. There wasn't like because the picture was large and ambitious and always has been since really day one. Even though we developed it as part of this program, we're supposed to make it for under $1 million, and yet it started on a freeway and had a dance in the sky and ended with the way it ended. So that was never actually. We were just sort of developing the best version of the film. But people were really, people responded to it and liked it, but they were just very sort of scared of the risk of it. And even after Whiplash, there were still conversations about like, okay, now it's this, but yeah, maybe we can compromise in this way. And we'd been living with it for so long that until Lionsgate. came along and said, okay, we understand the movie you want to make. We understand it's a really big risk, but we are going to back that version of the picture. There really was nobody that wanted to make the version of the film that we had always been talking about. But it wasn't like people were rejecting it.
Right.
They were rejecting the sort of risk of it and the idea of going. They were kind of responding to being a little fearful of what it was.
And Justin, for you, what was the most difficult song that you had to work on?
The opening one, the Another Day of Sun. It's such a complicated song. It's there's so much going on in it. It's weird in the sense that you have all these narratives, all of these characters who you're never going to see again, all of these stories that are important and that set the world, but that are not important ultimately to the story of me and Sebastian. So yeah, it was just a tricky song tonally as well, because we wanted it to be fast and energetic and feel happy in some ways, but we didn't want it to be too happy because then it gets kind of cheesy. It had to have some sadness to it, because it's about all these dreamers who have come to LA for one reason or another, to be creative, to be singers, dancers, writers, something, and they're very optimistic about their futures, but none of them are doing what they want to be doing. So there has to be this kind of melancholy in it as well. So straddling those two tones between, happy and optimistic, but unfulfilled, was a tricky tone to hit, and that's something Damien and I talked about a lot. And then our, amazing lyricists, Ben Pasek and Justin Paul, it was a very difficult lyric for them to write, again, with all of these narratives, with this complex emotional angle, and then also, just orchestrating it. It's so big. There's so much going on. There's so much choreography on screen. It was just kind of a beast of a number.
So how did you feel when it was cut?
Like cut from the movie, yeah.
Yeah, I was campaigning to get it back, but there were good reasons to cut it. I was happy the overture was in at least, which then they broke my heart cutting that. So my heart was going to be broken one way or the other. Sure. And but we learned a lot of things by screening it. When the first number was when that number was cut, and then the first number in the movie was the roommate's number, someone in the crowd. People were kind of, It was a little bit late in the movie to be introducing a song. We learned we had to sort of set the world up front, say right at the top, this is going to be a musical, and get people on board for singing and dancing. And we didn't know that till we screened it, so that's why you screen it, and you learn so many things from showing it to people.
Well, Damien, I think you said it really well. You said every number that's in there had to earn its place. I mean, the fact that you were willing to try it without this opening number that you did in one take and shut down a freeway for really shows.
No, yeah, I think at some point, and Tom might, you can let me know if I'm misremembering, but I think at some point, we did a cut. We tried cutting every, I don't mean all at once, but we tried at different points cutting any given number in the movie. I don't think there was
at some point audition was not even in the movie.
Number we cut.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me that.
I never saw that cut.
Wow.
Don't tell Emma.
He didn't know about it. It's okay. Sometimes it was very, very definitive. Like with the traffic number, we thought that we were making a definitive thing. Sometimes it was more experimental. Let's just see what happens to the movie. But it's always it's one thing I actually like, in the sense of looking back. That as you say, I can I know that each number had to claw its way back in, and I think that's kind of how you know that it earns its place. I always had a little bit of a fear of having a movie where there's that one extra number, or where you kind of start to feel the numbers are coming like clockwork, like it's been 10 minutes, so we have to have a number now. Whereas here, this needed to be a conception of the musical genre that was a little bit different, where only the numbers that emotions justified, where you had to have a number, where words did not suffice, only those numbers would be in the movie. And if that means we have 20 minutes without a song, then, so be it.
Question about what Ryan has learned as a director from working with Damien Chazelle.
Well, I think what I've learned in general is that directing is way more of a real job than I ever wanted to have. Just watching Damien work so hard made me realize that again. No, I think Damien has I think Damien not only knows why he loves movies, but why he fell in love with movies in the first place. I think he remembers that feeling. I think it's very close to him, and he directs from that place. And I think that's unique to him. I think that's a really special way to work.
Someone in the back, sure.
Oh, okay. So this goes to Damien and Justin. Justin in the sense of music and Damien in the sense of film. So, you guys are very passionate people, and you guys, have this really hard energy that you guys, stick to the screen. While you're directing, obviously there's so much chaos, there's so much work involved. How do you keep that creative, vision without letting it all loose and crazy,
I'm not sure. I guess it's I guess in some ways, yeah, you kind of want to, I don't know, you sort of don't want to rein in your passion, I guess, a little bit, especially with a movie like this where you're trying to do slightly either difficult or unlikely things. So you kind of, I was just lucky, I think, with this that I never actually, I was surrounded by, as I am right now and as I was on set, by people who could answer that passion or share it or augment it. Like, in other words, I never felt like I was the lone person, trying to kind of go like, come on, this could be good. And everyone's like, it was really a group of people, at every step of the way. I've never been on a set that was actually more, at least from what I was seeing, that was more joyous and that was more kind of, passionate.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to, stamp out the passion, but it's good to sort of surround yourself with people who edit your work and give you feedback. That's what a producer does. That's obviously what a director does. Tom, during post, I was giving them score cues all day long, and he had, a lot of opinions on what I was doing. So surrounding yourself with people who keep you on the right track and can be honest with you when you're on the wrong track, that's important. And then just knowing always keeping in mind what the project is and what it needs to be, and not getting out of hand with any. Just like knowing, being honest to what's on screen or what's in the script, and trying to serve the movie and see the big picture of it and understand how your work fits into that. So you don't go too far off. You can go off sometimes if you just want to experiment and have fun, but I think always keeping in mind what's needed for the story or for the movie.
Can I just say,
Sure.
I think the summation here that I'm hearing is like real true collaboration. I think that is, as a producer, I try to sort of instill that from the top. I try to enforce collaboration. No, it truly, though, I mean, Damien is, and that really starts from the top down. Damien is simultaneously the most singularly confident, but also most collaborative filmmaker I've ever worked with. And I think everybody would probably agree with Damien's sense of collaboration and sense of sort of working with others. It is incredibly important, especially if you're trying to do something this ambitious. And that's something that is both a little bit by nature and also a little bit learned, and it's something you have to really remember and remind yourself and really commit to.
Ryan, I feel like you are one of those actors who, even at a young age, you're very young to me. I don't care what Damien says. You have done so many genres, and now you've done a musical. Is there anything left that you have to tackle?
No, that's it.
You're done. It's time to retire. Well, at least you went out on a great movie. Think of it that way. I want to thank you for being a great audience, and thank you guys so much for such a beautiful film.
Thank you.
You guys.
You have been watching the Landmark Theater's Q&A podcast. For further in-depth discussions with filmmakers, be sure to check out the other Q&As available on our channel from past films. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all our bonus content. Thanks for watching.